is going on, awesome peeps? Brent McCluskey here with Electrified Reviews, and today we are reviewing the HJM Toury fat tire electric bike. This thing is fast, it is powerful, it is capable, and it is versatile, and it's got a starting price of $1,799 USD. And at the time of this writing, it's on sale up until the end of the month of June for $1,499 USD, which is a nice chunk of savings right there. And on the HJM website, there's also a $100 off coupon, which you can apply to that already discounted price of $14.99. So I guess that would make it $13.99. And if you do want to get two bikes, they've got a $400 coupon that you can apply to that sale price as well. So overall, HJM is bringing a lot of value to the table with the Toury, especially right now with these sale prices. And on top of that, HJM is offering a 2-year comprehensive warranty on all their products, including the Toury here. They've got a 30-day money-back guarantee, and they've also got free shipping to the contiguous United States. So again, a lot of value, and we will see that as we dive into the specs here. So with that in mind, let's dive into the specs. At the back of the HJM Toury, we've got a 750 watt powerful hub motor, and we're here in Forest Hill, California, right underneath the Forest Hill Bridge, which happens to be the tallest bridge in California at about 720 feet high. It's also the 4th highest bridge in the US, and it connects two sides of this canyon here, and in the middle we've got the American River that snakes through it. So in our testing here today, we're going up and down these really steep switchbacks, and this motor is taking the ill out of hills big time. It is turning those torturous climbs into much more palatable and easy to conquer, kind of makes it feel like gentle hills. So it's kind of a billy goat, which is surprising because it is that hub drive motor instead of the mid drive motor, but overall it's really powerful. Now, this motor will bring the Toury up to a top speed of, in our testing, 25 miles per hour, but you might be able to get it going even faster than that, probably around 28, maybe even up to 30 miles per hour. But honestly, at that 25 mile per hour top speed, that's about as fast as I'd want to take this bike, and that's primarily because of these big old 26-inch by 4-inch CST fat tires with puncture protection. They're not meant for warp drive. I mean, you can go top speed if you want to, but these tires really excel at kind of the lower speeds, and especially when tackling more difficult terrain like sand, snow, mud, or a ton of rocks. It just helps to float over those adverse terrains. When it comes to range, the HJM Toury has a 48 volt, 14 amp hour Dorado style battery in the down tube, which offers a max estimated range of about 45 miles with ideal conditions. But look, here's the deal about max estimated ranges. It's a lot like a car where there's a lot of variables that kind of go into it that can affect that top range. So if I'm going really fast using the throttle, if I'm going up really steep hills like we have here today, if I'm loading this thing up to that top payload capacity of 310 pounds, that's all going to lower the max estimated range. So generally at Electrified Reviews, what we like to do is just chop that max range in half, which would give us about 22.5 real world, worst case scenario max range, which is still pretty good. That's a long ride. And the good news is this battery is locking and removable. So if you want to, you can go up and you can go down, and you can go up and you can go down. And then when the battery runs low, you can just take it out, swap it out for a new one, and you can keep going on the trail if that's what you want to do. Now, it's also cool that this is locking and removable because it does have a USB Type A charging port built into the battery, which means if you want to, you can charge up your cell phone, or you can charge up your cameras, or you can charge up really just any gear that will fit like a traditional USB Type A port. So good stuff from HJM here. Another thing I really like about the Dorado style batteries is their location low in the down tube. That helps keep the center of gravity on the bike very low, and it also helps keep the weight evenly distributed. So it makes it feel like a much more nimble ride than you might think given how big it is. And remember, we've got that big, powerful, heavy 750 watt motor in the rear wheel, and we've got these heavy RST oil suspension in the front. So a lot of weight on this bike, but again, it's evenly distributed. And when you're going up and down technical terrain like we have here on these Forest Hill trails, that even weight distribution is really going to be felt. So I mentioned the 310 pound carry capacity on the Toury, and that's great because we do have this rear rack that comes with the bike, and it is bolted directly to the frame, which adds structural integrity. So you could throw on some saddlebags to this bike, you could throw on a backpack back here and just kind of wrap it up to keep it secure. You've also got front bosses here on the head tube, which is great because if you want to add a front basket or a front rack, you can do that too. And that means that the weight will be on the head tube and not on the suspension fork, which is really not what you want. So when you have the weight up here in the front, that's awesome because whatever you have in the basket, it's not going to move when you turn the handlebars. And it's also not going to tip, which means stuff isn't going to fall out of it. Overall, it's really well thought out on HJM's part for future accessories. They've also got bosses here if you want to add a bottle cage. In the back of the HJM Toury, we've got a 7-speed Shimano Altus derailleur, which is a nice step up from that entry-level Shimano tourney that we normally see on this type of e-bike. It's also got a 14 to 34 tooth spread in the back, and it's paired with an SIS index thumb shifter in the front. And if you have been with us at Electrified Reviews for any length of time, you probably will know that the SIS index thumb shifters are not our favorite, and I'll show you why. Here. It's really because when you are riding down technical terrain, if you need to switch gears, you have to remove a lot of your hand from the grip in order to access the shifter here, and that's just not something you really want to be doing. Not that big of a deal, but something I want to always point out. Another cool piece of kit on the tourney is the derailleur cage. It doesn't cost a lot of money, only a few cents for this little piece, but it does help protect the derailleur in the event of a strike, especially lateral strikes. And again, if we are taking this bike on trails like this, where we have rocks, if we're going over logs, that might come in handy. Another cool point here is the double-sided aluminum bash guard on the front chainring. That's gonna help prevent strikes, or it's actually gonna help prevent damage in the event of a strike on that front chainring there. So if you do hit a big rock, most likely your teeth are gonna be fine. It's just going to crush a little bit that bash guard, which is exactly what it's for. And that prevents derailment so you can keep riding and not have to stop. Now, the Toury is equipped with a 12 magnet cadence sensor, and like all cadence sensors, there is some latency with motor activation and deactivation. So when I start pedaling, it takes a second for the motor to realize, oh, he's pedaling. Or when I stop pedaling, it takes a moment for the motor to realize, oh, he stopped pedaling. And that's not that big of a deal, but again, when we're talking about technical terrain, you might want to override that latency, which you can do with the motor inhibitors that are built into the brake levers. So if you want to instantly cut power to the motor, you can just depress the brake lever just a little bit, and it's going to instantly cut power to that rear motor. It's a great safety feature because it helps to ensure you have the shortest possible stopping distance, but it's also a great way to take control of that latency we talked about with the cadence sensor. Now, on the other hand, if you're trying to get started from a dead stop, if you're in a high gear and you're at the bottom of the hill, it might take a second for that motor to get activated, but you can override that as well by using the throttle, which is live from 0 miles per hour. So you just give it a twist and you can keep going. When it comes to stopping power, the HJM Toury has Tektro mechanical disc brakes with 180 millimeter rotors in the front and rear wheel. So there is tons of stopping power on this bike, and I'm really happy that HJM went with the disc brakes instead of rim brakes because, and yet again, this is just a great example here. This terrain, we've got a lot of long descents, and with those long descents, you get a lot of heat buildup, and that's why you want the discs over the rim brakes. They can't handle that kind of heat. Now, if I could have one thing changed on the Toury, I probably would swap out the mechanical disc brakes and upgrade them for hydraulic disc brakes just for even more stopping power because, again, remember, we do have that max payload capacity of 310 pounds, so you can really put a lot of weight on this bike. There is a headlight on the HJM Toury, and what I love about this light is that it is automatic. So when the lights are on outside, the lights on the bike are off. And when it's nighttime, the lights turn on automatically. Very sweet stuff. Now, it's got about 45 lux of output, which is not a lot. And the beam pattern is very much a tight square. So it's not so much like a circle, not like a throw like you normally see on these bikes, but there's not a lot of spread on this. So can you use it to ride at night? Absolutely. Would I recommend it? Probably not. If you want to ride this bike on trails at night, we'd recommend getting an aftermarket light that you can put on your helmet or on the handlebars that has at least 2,000 lumens of output to really light up that trail. The Toury also has a tail light, which is pretty awesome. And when you hit the brakes, it actually activates just like a car. There's also turn signals, so you can tell people that are behind you, hey, I'm turning left, or you can say, hey, I'm turning right. And in case there's an emergency, or if you just want to use the emergency blinkers, just like a car, you can hit emergency button, and then both of those yellow lights will flash simultaneously. Now, the lumen output on the taillight isn't huge. In broad daylight, it's kind of difficult to see this. At night, it's a lot easier. And I think for this to really be functional, HJM probably needs to increase the lumen output by about 4 or 5 times. But as it stands, it still does a good job of increasing the visibility of you for passerbys, which again, is just good for safety. When it comes to the handlebars, something I really appreciate about the Toury is that they are adjustable in angle. So if I want to, I can lower the angle of the handlebars even further than they are now, which would give me a very aggressive kind of downhill mountain bike feel. Or if I'm just planning on using this to go to the grocery store, more of a pavement pounder, which is totally fine, I can raise the angle of the handlebars to make it more of an upright riding posture, which is way more comfortable. Who wants to be riding all the way hunched down if you don't have to? On the left side of the handlebars, we got the turn signals like we talked about earlier, the emergency stop, and we've got the independent button pad to change the gearing for the display here. Now, the display in the middle is a very bright color LCD display, which is easily visible in direct sunlight. I think that's because the screen here is polarized, and when I was wearing my polarized sunglasses, the screen was actually blacking out because the polarization was interfering with each other. So just something to keep in mind, if you guys are wearing polarized glasses while you ride this, the screen may be invisible at certain angles depending on how you tilt your head with that overlapping polarization. So maybe for this bike, don't use polarized sunglasses. On the right side of the handlebars, we got the SIS index thumb shifter, the bemoaned SIS index thumb shifter, and we got that half grip twist throttle, and then of course we got the faux leather comfortable grips here, really nice grips. And look guys, overall, the HJM Toury is really quite a value buy, especially at that $13.99 price right now with the sale price and with that coupon. But even at the $17.99 MSRP, overall, this is just a really functional, really decently high quality bike that can fill almost any role that you want it to. It's kind of like the jack of all trades. So yeah, that is it, folks, for the review of the HJM Toury. Now let's go have some fun.